Hello, hello. Good
Hi.
good evening all. I am Wolfie Tavius, joined by Matty Navius, and this is
Hi.
the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club. Please chime in on the comments. I'll go ahead and say right off if our volume levels sound kind of weird. It's a little tough to monitor those through StreamYard, so if we sound weird, go ahead and say something, Matty.
Hello.
All right. Um, so if it sounds weird for any reason, please let us know, and then we can correct it on our ends real quick, rather than going through the whole ass episode and not knowing what the hell's going on. Anyway, I'm just
Yes.
trying to double check to see on Facebook right quick what the video looks like, but since I'm streaming from this website, I don't think it allows me to actually. Okay, here, hold on 1 second, everybody. Well, the video looks good. Anyway, I'm just going to trust it. We're just going to go with it, roll with it. Yeah. So to start it off, heck, we're going to go through some movie news. So
Oh shit.
let me just cue up our first article here. Give me just one dang old minute. It's kind of tough. I wish I could. One day I'll get better at doing this on the fly. Wachow. So my first little news item today is Brendan Fraser's cast as the lead in Darren Aronofsky's next film, The Whale.
What?
Um, yeah. He's working in conjunction with A24 Studios, which puts out those nice kind of artsy horror flicks and stuff as of late. And I quite like what's been coming out of A24. Sorry, adjusting. And I mean, I love Darren Aronofsky. So Brendan Fraser is going to be playing a 600-pound recluse who is like eating himself to death, based on a play from Samuel D. Hunter of the same name, The Whale. And it sounds like straight up sounds like an Aronofsky kind of on-screen torture fest.
Yeah.
Not that it's torture, but his movies. The Last Mother was pretty disturbing in parts and pretty intense. What do you think about that? Brendan Fraser's great.
Yeah. I mean, a coworker told me at work that he goes, "Oh, Aronofsky's doing a new movie." I was like, "Oh, what's it called?" He's like, "The Whale," and I was like, "Oh, what are we doing now? What's going on? We doing some biblical like what's happening?"
Right, I know. Could have been his Jonah's
Yeah,
tale.
and I was like, and he's like, it's got Brendan Fraser, and I was like, well, that's weird. Like, who's he got? All right, well, what's it about? And he's like, it's about a man that's 600 pounds, is eating himself to death, but decides to like reconnect with his daughter before he dies or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. It's not like, I mean, at this point, I mean, Mother to me was all right. I just like, it's kind of forgettable to me. But
Uh
I was hoping that Aronofsky, like after like, that we would get to see him do something a bigger spectacle film, you know?
right.
Will I watch this movie? Yes. I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see how this goes, and I also think Brandon Fraser is a good actor too. His turn in Doom Patrol was really great, and I
Right.
think the man still has a lot to offer. And I think Aronofsky being the director is, and the performance he gets out of people, I think it's going to be like really good for Brandon Fraser, and maybe even like Oscar worthy. You
Yeah.
know,
Definitely. I
I
mean,
mean, maybe.
he'll do for Brendan Fraser what he did for Mickey Rourke maybe.
Yeah,
And it seems it seems like an Aronofsky movie, and it'll be nice to see him do something that's a little bit more down to earth, and well, not down to earth so much as grounded. Than Mother was so like symbolic and metaphorical and things like that, kind of experimental. So it'll be great, and I'm really excited for the kind of like the budding return of Brendan Fraser. I think he's amazing. Um, Encino Man's one of my all-time favorites, and so I'm looking forward for his bounce back. I still got to watch that Doom Patrol for sure. Next on the docket is Deadpool 3, confirmed for MCU, and it will be R-rated. This came out maybe this weekend at some point. Um, what do you think of that, Matt Ontavius?
I mean, I'm up for it. I love the first Deadpool. I think Deadpool 2 leaves me a little bit. I didn't care for it so much as a sequel. I mean, I had fun with it, so I'm hoping,
Yeah.
and I feel like there was some controversy behind it because they didn't get the original director back, and you know, I don't know who's involved. I've just heard that it's happening. It's going to be rated R, and that Deadpool will be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is going to be funny to see how they incorporate him
Right.
in these films. I assume since they're going to be PG-13, he can't cuss. But I wonder if he'll like bleep himself, or the movie will bleep itself,
No,
or something.
as you'll see by my misspelled thing down here, it's going to be rated R.
Well, I just meant if he shows up for like event movies.
Oh, I was
So
had a little
I
bit
wonder
of
how they're gonna, because I mean,
cannabis today.
if you put Deadpool in the universe, like I mean, I'd watch him show up in an Avengers flick. Like, why not? You know?
Yeah, I'd watch him step out of a portal. That'd be great. I'm gonna get rid of this since I misspelled it. Out of here. Yeah, it'll be cool. I think the most interesting part is how they're going to incorporate him into the MCU. There are rumors that it could be Spider-Man: Homecoming 3, which is the working title, the behind this, the I guess the working title of the film right now, not the official title.
Yeah,
But that
that
could be
movie's gonna be
something.
crazy.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of multiverse action beginning there and then moving on into Doctor Strange. So either of those movies are a good place for it to start. And there a lot of people are speculating on how they're going to introduce the mutants into the MCU. And right now, Deadpool would be like a nice shoehorn into the universe since they've set up mutants. Well, I mean, any one of these movies, New Mutants or even the X-Men franchise, there's things there that they could draw from. But it'll be nice to see how they go about that, actually, which leads me to my next news tidbit. There are X-Men talks happening at Marvel Studios as we speak, and as it sounds, they've been ongoing roughly since 20th Century Fox got the rights back or the merger, the Disney Fox merger. Sorry, I'm trying to like click and
Talk.
be slick at the same time. There you go. There's some X-Men for you, mother truckers.
Ooh.
So let's just read what Kevin Feige had to say about this little blurb right here real quick. Screen Rant asked him, at Disney Investor Day, you announced that Fantastic Four is happening. When will we see the X-Men? And Kevin Feige said, you know how much I love the X-Men. I already said that's where I started. I can't tell you anything before we actually announced it, but rest assured the discussions have been long and ongoing internally. So, I mean, we probably are. We knew that, I think. Just because that's such a massive property and there's such a huge fan base there. But it's nice to hear an official, somebody saying, yeah, we're kicking it around the office.
Yeah, I mean, about time. I mean, I'm ready for. I feel like all the X-Men have gone to the wayside recently,
Yeah,
to focus on the Avengers, which is fine. I never thought I'd be a fan of Captain America. I'm not reading those comics, but I love me some Chris Evans as Captain America.
for
I'm ready
sure.
for the next phases to be set up, and I'll watch those. But at the heart of it, I think Stefan and I are on the same page here. Where the fuck
Mutants.
my X-Men?
Mutants. I can't wait
I
to
mean,
see what they do with
New
the
Mutants was a step in the right direction, but I need to see Wolverine. I need to see Jean Grey. I
Yeah.
need Storm. I need Gambit.
Yeah.
I need
And now
basically
that
what
we,
they did with the Avengers. I need to see that with the X-Men franchise. That's all I'm
yeah.
saying.
And now that the franchise has been like busted open, and they've tried all these different things, they've had highs and lows and stuff. It's
So
going
many
to be a
lows.
really educated and well-versed attempt, I think, coming from Marvel Studios to do X-Men, because they have all those years of what people have tried and come before them to work off of. It's going to be pretty tight. Um, so moving on next, we're going to go ahead into our review for this episode. So a little context here. I watched a trailer called Space Racers. It's a
Space Sweepers.
Space Sweepers. It's a Chinese film that's coming out. And just for shits and giggles, why don't we watch that trailer real quick?
Oh, sick.
Just to give people an idea. So the context by which I'm referencing here is that I was shown the trailer for Space Sweepers, and I was like, you know what? That reminds me of this film, The Wandering Earth, that was hold on, I messed that up. Oh man. Of The Wandering Earth that came out in 2019, and I really wanted to watch The Wandering Earth, but then I kind of forgot about it, fell to the wayside in my mentals.
Same.
Okay, let me cue that up again. I hit the wrong button. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So here we go. We're gonna watch this teaser trailer. This comes out on February 5th on Netflix. This is the teaser trailer for Space Sweepers, and as context, I saw this and it reminded me of Wandering Earth. But to get an idea of the production level that China's getting to with science fiction movies, we're gonna watch this teaser right quick.
비켜라 이 무능한 것들아. 저건 내 거다.
You're seriously going to take everything? Victory son of bitches!
이거 앞에서 만민이 평등하지.
맨날
그러므로
Ah.
걸린 적이 없는데.
All right. It won't let
Start it
me-
over. No one saw it.
screen the way I
It's
want
fine.
to.
무능한 것들아.
We'll just watch it
저건 내
like this.
거다.
You're seriously going to take everything? Victory son of bitches!
이거 앞에서 만민이 평등하지.
Look at those graphics.
Yeah, it's looking like they're influenced a lot by Marvel, Star Wars, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
if
I
you're-
love this mech robot action.
yeah, it's cool. I mean, and it made me think like we only ever really see like American future space, because we got all
Yeah.
the big bucks, and it'll be interesting to see how other cultures kind of. Chinese culture in this instance tackle some of these robots and aliens and things, like their cultural interpretation of what the future, speculative future might be like, is going to be really cool.
안 돼. 정의롭지도
And this just looks
못해.
fun, so fun.
Yeah.
Cool characters. And as you'll hear, Maddie and I, when we talk about the Wandering Earth and stuff, it's a really nice, refreshing thing, and it's exciting to see China venturing into these big kind of sci-fi films.
입 좀 다물어.
난입 벌린 적이 없는데.
So that's good. So that's coming out on Netflix. I know I kind of breezed through it and talked through the whole thing, but
They
that
can
was just to set
rewatch
up.
it. They have
That's
the
just to set
internet.
up a little. Yeah, go check out Space Sweepers trailer if you want to get more. Obviously not our voices like chatting over the dang thing, but China historically doesn't have, in the modern film arena, many science fiction films. Maybe some small ones and maybe some things based off of comic books or whatever. They do a lot of fantasy, but they've yet to venture too far into science fiction, basically because the government controls a lot of the money that goes into some big film projects, a lot of big film projects. And so the executives who were parlaying with that, I guess, were thinking that these type of movies need big, giant set pieces and special effects in order to be made, and that it might be a losing battle for the types of movies that China has traditionally made. So with that all being said, so that was just kind of to show you what sparked my interest to go back and watch The Wandering Earth. And what is The Wandering Earth, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. The story is based on a Hugo. The story is based on a Hugo Award-winning novelist. I'm going to try not to butcher these names. Cixin Liu, and their novel of the same name, The Wandering Earth. And the premise is, as the sun is dying out, people all around the world, or as the sun is dying out and it's expanding and it's basically scorching the earth. So people all around the world band together and build these giant planet thrusters, these world engines, to attempt to move the Earth out of its orbit in our solar system and move it to Alpha Centauri, 4.5 light years away. So the premise is a little bit far-fetched, admittedly. It did win a Hugo Award, so, there's some good stuff coming from those Hugo fellas. And in terms of we'll get more about the story and everything in just a minute. But according to The Hollywood Reporter, The Wandering Earth is China's first full-scale interstellar film. This is like their first big, huge spacefaring blockbuster. Chinese science fiction author and screenwriter Anna Wu says science fiction is a new challenge for the Chinese film industry. While there have been numerous fantasy films, she told The Verge that studios and investors have hesitated when it comes to the genre because of the participation that they need both a high level of special effects and to rake in lots of money in order to be successful. And
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I'm glad they're making the leap now. And this came out in 2019. We're kind of dialing back to find it, but I think we both wanted to talk about it because it's exciting, for one, being like sci-fi fans, to see something like this. And it's not like, I'll reference Valerian and the Million Planets or whatever it was. Bit of a disappointment on my end. And
Same.
the visuals were striking or whatever, but outside of Star Wars and maybe Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel stuff, we don't really see this like lived in spacefaring kind of stuff going on with these societies set up and all these hierarchies of proletariat workers and empirical officials or what have you. So it's just, I was glad to go back and watch the movie. That's all I'll say. One thing before we move into our review is how the premise seems to be a little far-fetched, moving the whole planet out of orbit. There've been dumber things done in sci-fi, and I think this one has like a real environmental, global kind of perspective to it, so you can like suspend disbelief a little bit. But many question the idea of moving the entire Earth rather than building some big spaceships. And actually, as the novel originally tells, the United States proposed to build big spaceships to send mankind to settle in a new solar system. However, only the wealthy elites may get on board due to space restraint, whatever that is. I'm guessing this person wrote this in Chinese. I pulled it off the IMDb, and it got translated. A ticket would have cost more than $30 million, and this plan got shot down during a huge civil unrest after word leaked out that people who can't pay $30 million will be left to die. China and the rest of the world proposed to build giant engines to move the entire planet, as we saw in the movie. Another consideration, as mentioned in the novel, is that risks for spaceships to sustain a biosphere for 2,500 years are too high. Which is they thought about it and it showed up in the novel, but something they couldn't really put in the movie. In the movie, you get a lot of kind of narration set up and stuff for a lot of the more technical aspects of the story. And there was one other thing I wanted to touch upon here. Originally, Wu Jing, the actor, one of the protagonists, only agreed to show up in one scene, but since he was the only big star of the film, the director changed. Frant Gue is the name of the director, something like that. I'm terrible at the names.
Like how we said, we get better at using names and we pick a foreign film to review.
Getting better
for the
at
next,
bringing info to the table.
Yeah.
I also forgot to launch my tunes when we jumped in here, but here we go. I got some tunes going behind us. This is the Muse Chillwave Mix from Sequencer on YouTube. Look them up and subscribe to them. I'm using their tunes right now as background tunes for us. But anyway, this guy Wu Jing, he only showed up to be in one scene and kind of help get the movie off the ground. And one day of shooting became weeks, then months. Wu Jing's pay for each movie is around $10 million US. And after weeks of shooting, the director asked him that since the movie was over budget, maybe he didn't mind not getting paid. Wu Jing, however, loved the director and the film so much, not only that he agreed not getting paid, he invested his own money of about $9 million US into it. Many people thought Wu Jing was conned by the director at the time. In fact, without Wu's name, the movie wouldn't have been sold to so many theaters at all. If director Frant was the father of the film, Wu Jing is like its guardian angel. This kind of blessing rarely happened happens in the Chinese film industry. And then before we get to our words, sorry, Maddie, I know I bring a lot of information to the table, but I have one more thing about deleted scenes and stuff real quick that I think helps a little bit of behind the scene information. Hopefully I'm not spoiling too much here for anybody, but this is all from IMDb as well, by the way. Many scenes didn't make the final cut, which made the story a bit confusing at times. For example, the original novel mentioned there's a growing distrust towards the United Earth government among people as a conspiracy theory spread, stating that the sun is not going to die anytime soon, and the whole Wandering Earth project is just a cover for elites to have total control over the population. That's kind of a year ahead of all the pandemic stuff, so it's like kind of interesting had that played out in the film or whatever. It's kind of touching on that same kind of conspiratorial thinking. This explains why the rescue teams carry weapons, and also explains why the scientist Lee Yu, the nerdy scientist, I mean, I guess they're all nerdy, but he's one of the ones that survived, was aggressive and swings a wrench at one of the main protagonists when he meets him the first time. Also in the final...
There were some weird moments in it. I was like, I'm either missing something in translation here, or stuff was cut.
Yeah, probably a few things. I guess there was like a ton of scenes that didn't make it in, and they went over budget and stuff like that. But I think in terms of execution, they really were able to. That's all I had anyway. But so we can get to our thoughts. Where'd Maddie go? I'll just go ahead and start then. I really loved this movie. It felt a lot like a Chinese Independence Day or something. You saw like the whole world rally around. So in the film they move Earth out of the orbit of our solar system on a trajectory where they have to like avoid getting pulled into the gravitational pull of Jupiter. Which when they get to that area, the pull is too strong and it shuts down a bunch of engines. So now basically the rest of the film is Earth in a collision course with Jupiter, which would tear us to shreds, destroy us completely. So it's these band of heroes and these main characters that come in to try and stop that. And it's actually a really compelling story. Some good characters, has a little bit of Interstellar vibes, with family separated and that kind of thing. What'd you think of it, Maddie?
I really liked it. I didn't realize, I guess when I watched the trailer, I missed the whole thing where they're moving Earth, which I thought was a pretty fun concept because, I saw the trailer probably when they were like, this movie's like, number one in China. No one's seen it. And I watched it and then I forgot about it for a year basically. And so I just like went into it because you showed me that trailer that we just watched. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he remembers this movie called The Wandering Earth, or if you saw it and I should watch it. I didn't know we were when I recommended it, I didn't know we were going to be reviewing it. But so we both watched it. But I had no idea they were moving the Earth. And to me, that was a really cool concept, even though my mind couldn't really wrap around what would happen if you did that. But I like that in the movie, even though it's this ridiculous thing, there are repercussions for doing this. Like there's a new ice age. No one can go up because what is it? It's like negative. You'll just freeze. As soon as you step out into what the Earth is as it's moving through space, you'll just die instantly and freeze to death.
Right. Yeah.
And I like that they had to probably make sacrifices. Cities were lost. I'm sure people died that couldn't get to these bunkers or, whatever. Because you do see like these little bits of like maybe people trying to get outside of these bunkers and like live life again, and like they're frozen, and it's just like. There were repercussions for them moving the Earth. Yeah, so I like that you gave me that little tidbit that there was like there were other plans, and this seemed to be the most effective, and everyone could go.
I think that's what makes the movie work so well too, is it gives that sense of like global, experience. In this movie, you get it through these like main characters who are thrust together, and they lose people, and they're doing their best to get to the end and save the world essentially. But also it made me think of like World War Z or something, like all the other different stories that played out, over the last couple hundred years that this whole thing takes place prior to the sun exploding and what the world was like then. And then once they figured out that it would take 100 years for the Earth to get engulfed by the sun or whatever, it was really cool. And then, who's to say if you don't have a big enough rocket, you can't get the world out of orbit? To get it into another orbit, I'm no scientist, but that seems like it could work to me.
Yeah. It's as believable as people, taking a spaceship up and dropping onto an asteroid to blow it up.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
it's got some Armageddon vibes, but and that's the thing too, is it's not like, it may be cheesy in China, certain parts. I don't know. Maybe that's lost in translation. I thought it was pitch perfect.
Yeah,
But let me turn my gain down here a little bit. It sounds maybe like I'm popping too much. But what was I saying?
it might seem a little cheesy to other audiences.
Oh, right. It had me
so.
emotionally captivated.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a good movie. This is a good movie. Like every 10 minutes, I'm like, this is a good movie. And, you know, it definitely has the vibes of those kind of formulaic disaster films that we had a lot of back in the late 90s, early to late 90s, or mid to late 90s, the 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
But the execution was done really well because it had the inspiration of like modern films like Disney and Marvel Studios and Star Wars and stuff that have those futures with like the real lived-in textural science fiction. Or even we were talking about The Expanse last time, and which I think we should mention. We talked about watching the first season of The Expanse to try and get in on that fandom and be representative of that fandom. But both Maddie and I checked our where we left off with that show.
Yeah.
And we were both like, what were you? How far were you in?
I would have been on the 7th episode of season 1.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what happened for 6 episodes.
Yeah. I was on like episode 5. So I think we decided we'd seen enough. Really, we may get there one day, but also referencing The Expanse, you know, it does have like this really, for the stuff that we may not like about the show or whatever, it has this really well crafted and studied kind of like version of the future, speculative kind of details and things that are real nice to see in good sci-fi. So that's what I liked about The Wandering Earth. You know, I mean, everything, the story and the characters and the acting, even the little girl character in the movie, she gets kind of the Bill Pullman Independence Day type speech in the movie, and I was choking up, man. I won't lie.
Dude, same.
I feel stuff.
I thought the father and the son relationship, even though the father leaves him when he's like 4 years old, and they only have like this dialogue through,
right?
You know, which they can kind of have sort of sometimes, because I guess it has to be where he was last located or something. So we can talk to him a few times, but they have like really touching moments that, having not seen each other and just these actors expressing themselves, I was like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything because it's hard to.
Right. But I think in our drive, our decision to review this movie and watch this movie in particular, I think, you know, at a certain point we provide a service here, and Maddie and I are going to try and watch as many kind of like obscure, overlooked films. I mean, we generally float around the science fiction, horror genres, the pulpy stuff. But I think, you know, there's a lot of places you can get the big reviews, but here it's like, you know, unless
you get the little reviews,
unless you knew about The Wandering Earth or weren't friends of ours, you know, how would you ever know about it? It's a great movie. You should definitely watch it if you're looking for something to watch. I think, you know, we're the red pill that you take when you're sitting there hours on end trying to find something on Netflix or Hulu. There have been times that I have just gone through something for maybe an hour and a half, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed. You know what I watched was Netflix titles streaming past me for an hour and a half. That's what I watched.
Yeah, I watched
tonight.
like 4 trailers and
so we hope to alleviate that. You know, if you like our picks and you like our style of movies, then
I think it's a fun thing to do, because I look for the smaller films. Like, I mean, I love watching the big budget, you know, like, I mean, Tenet was the last big budget movie I saw that I had a great time watching, but I also look for like smaller films. Yeah. But for me, smaller films sometimes are like some of the best films I watch of the year, you know, like, as we'll get to it later in this episode, our year-end wrap-up of favorite films of this year. But there weren't very many big films that came out this year, but you know, generally, I think even like back in the Superhouse days and, you know, superhero stuff days, or, you know, they're still going. But I would always throw on random films that I would see that were smaller in my year-end roundup, because they just would touch me more or would have something I hadn't seen before. So I think I like stuff like this. When I go to YouTube, it's always to like look to like, I'll follow Bloody Discussing and they'll give like top 5 horror films that no one saw. And I eat those reviews up, dude. I like read through it. I'm like, I gotta watch all 5 of these. I haven't seen any of them. I'm slacking.
Yeah, for sure. Which, you know, I think it's it's a cool thing to do just because I hate, not that I hate it so much, but like, you know, we're just now getting to The Wandering Earth, where in my mind it's kind of a sensational film. So I was like, where was I when it came out? You know, I want to be better about that. I want to be more on top of that. And Maddie's a good curator of this kind of thing, so I'm very grateful.
I have no
The
life.
show, The Club, is grateful for that. But out of 10 moving planetary bodies, what do you give The Wandering Earth?
I mean, knowing that there was some like cut scenes, a lot of stuff that didn't make sense, like people's reactions to seeing other people and you know, stuff like that. I don't know, man. Probably like a 9 out of 10, and I would give it a 10 out of 10 if there wasn't some of those maybe lost in translation moments or stuff that was just cut for time. Because I mean, it's like 2 hours and 5 minutes, so maybe if those scenes would have added, we would have had a 2 hour and 30-minute movie,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard to have like an American audience sit down and view.
Yeah,
You know,
as I
it is a,
explained
you know,
last time.
it's not like the guy that directed Parasite. You know, it's not like not it's not that guy's new movie who you'll sit down for now.
Right.
You know, but you know, most people have only seen Parasite by that guy, whereas I've been following his career since like The Host.
Right.
And
Hell
people are
yeah.
like, "What's
This-
that movie about?" I'm like, "What are you kidding? Fucking amazing Korean monster movie. What are you talking about?"
It's so good.
You know, so
Koreans
but-
been making hot films for the last
Dude.
little while. Get on that. This
But,
movie
yeah, I would-
even had a little Host vibes to it, I'd say, with a lot of the
I
hustle
mean,
and bustle of the
I'd
apocalypse.
give it a 9 out of 10, and I really like that you have that like kind of evil AI moment in it a little bit
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
second, and I really like that they were like kind of drawing from a lot of like, you could tell like 2001: A Space Odyssey was a big inspiration. You could tell that like Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy is a big inspiration, Star
Right.
Wars. So it's like they were just drawing from a lot of classic sci-fi flicks in this
Right.
movie to make something, in my opinion, is original. I've not seen a movie where they've tried to move the entire Earth to a new orbit. So fuck yeah, man, 9 out of 10.
Right. I'm just because it seems like, you know, there are probably a lot of reasons why I passed it up the first time. I thought it was like a big ship that they made and not the planet. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's a big movie in China. And that's all it was at the time. But because it made me so giddy and enthralled in the way that maybe some of those like 90s films did, 90s disaster films like Independence Day or whatever, I'm going to go ahead and say 9.5. It just really, I try not to do this, but I think I must do it, is multitask with certain things. So I was working on some promo stuff, the promo pick for this episode, and watching the movie and reading the subtitles. So that was really difficult. So I watched the movie again today just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And, you know, I'm pretty proud of myself. I think I caught a lot of that movie, even though the first time I was kind of looking up and looking down. It was really hard. After a while, I kind of put stuff away near the last half of the movie and just kind of gave it my full attention. But overall, you know, after watching it again today, I was just really, really enjoyed what it is. And, you know, calling back to this Space Sweepers movie, I really hope that at least lives up to the standard that this is set, you know, in terms of storytelling. The effects already look great, but I'm really excited to see actually this budding Chinese-made science fiction films that hopefully we'll get a lot more of. It's a new frontier for Chinese filmmakers. And actually, the director of this film, I'm gonna try and read his name
One more time.
one more time to get it. I'm gonna read the names for everybody involved. The film stars Ku Shuxiao. I don't know any Chinese, so I'm just gonna kind of phonetically spice it up. Li Guangji. I don't know if this is right. Please, I'm sorry, I'm butchering them. Man Tat, Xiao Jin Mai, and Wu Jing, who we talked about. Ku Jinjing. Oh wait, I already mentioned them. Oh no, yeah, okay, I mentioned them. And the director is Frant Guo. And so this director, Frant Guo, he like worked on smaller films before this and had never directed any kind of like sci-fi film nor anything as big as this film is. And so he says he took the time out to study the genre in order to come and make this movie. And a lot of people at the time and like the trades and the magazines and stuff were saying that he was up against like insurmountable odds taking this project on and everything. So, you know, amidst some of it, you know, feels like a little bit of a mess here and there, but I think it's paced really well. It's really cohesive. And I think, you know, it's a huge accomplishment for this guy who, you know, he kind of was against all odds and had to ask this one actor to not take pay and everything. He's pretty ballsy, is all I'll say. So I found that pretty interesting as well. So 9.5, we'll go ahead and call it a 9.5 and average that out with that extra 5 points. For The Wandering Earth, I highly recommend it. I think you should watch it if you like any kind of sci-fi, spacefaring kind of stuff, especially stuff that's more connected to our real world in a speculative kind of nature. Then this movie is for you. Wouldn't you agree,
Yes.
Maddie?
I would agree.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, so moving on into our last section of this episode, we're going to dial it back a little bit and talk about our favorite movies from the year of 2020. And I got to admit, I was sleeping a lot of 2020. I didn't watch a lot of movies that I saw turn up on lists of the best movies or good movies. I saw a handful of things, and I tried with my list to kind of spread it out and consider the things that came out through the entire year and not so much just the end of the year. So how do you want to do this, Maddie? You want to go tit for tat? What do you think?
Are yours in order from like 5 to 1, or
I wrote them down 1 to 5.
We got some comments too. I don't know if we want to address them real quick.
All right,
before
let's see what we got. Let's see.
Looks like you got
This
a fan,
is-
Stefan.
We got Facebook user. Remember to go to facebook.com/StreamYard in order to allow your name to be used, so we can put it on here. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do it, but you'll turn up as Facebook user. So here we go. Fucking intellectuals. Love your perspective. Love you, Wolfie. So deep. Ha, keep going. Will do. Thank you, Facebook user.
Yeah.
We love you too. We had some other stuff earlier when we were talking. Somebody said, everybody wants to be Marvel Studios. I know I want to be Marvel Studios.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so.
Or just have a direction with what you want to do with your films, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
DC.
Pretty
I mean, I
much.
don't care if they're standalones. Just make fucking quality films.
Yeah, for sure. So here, let's do it like this. We'll go. I don't know how should we do it. We haven't done a countdown on Overly Critical yet. You just go. You do. So you say something. I've said
Okay.
enough.
What are you
I know.
drinking over there?
This is green tea.
Oh, looks like whiskey or scotch.
I wish. I'm high on life. I did have some cannabis earlier. I imbibed.
Yeah, I can go. I can do mine. I'll do from
right.
5 to 1.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it like that.
So my number 5 flick that I saw in 2020 is Possessor. I watched the uncut version. It's by Brandon Cronenberg. Yes, the son of David Cronenberg.
Oh yeah.
It's cool. It's body horror. It's about assassins taking over people's mind to make assassinations happen. It's sick. The poster art's sick.
Ooh, creepskis.
It's cool. It's really violent. So if body horror and that kind of thing isn't your thing, don't watch it because it's going to be like a David Cronenberg flick. But it's a really cool concept of, you know, what happens if you're entering someone's mind and things don't go according to plan, or that person might be have a stronger mind than yours, and the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
So, and then moving on is I have number 4, Palm Springs. This is the Andy Samberg comedy that came out on Hulu in 2020. I've watched it like 3 times now. I think it's hilarious. I don't put a lot of comedies. I'm more of like the sci-fi fantasy horror guy. And this does have a sci-fi twist. It's very much like Groundhog's Day. And they do fine. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil too much, but really hilarious. I love Andy Samberg. I've loved him since his days on SNL.
There we go.
Sick poster.
Take him. Yeah, this is a great poster. I'm kind of hit or miss with Andy Samberg, and I've heard a lot of this one pop up a lot on other people's lists and things like that. So I'm definitely going to check it out as per everyone's recommendation. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, that's a nice poster.
I think you'll dig it.
Really,
but yeah,
I really liked. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just a fun, heartwarming flick, man. It was just a good time.
Nice.
You may move on.
Yeah. Next up,
So
I'll
number
watch
3,
it.
I have Relic. It's got Emily Mortimer in it and 2 other ladies. I can't remember their names, but it is a horror flick. Some body horror elements. It's I don't know, man. It's just like the last part of the movie. You kind of get into it and you're like, oh, this is like a possession thing, and like, all right, whatever. It's going to have those kind of beats that it follows. I mean, if you've seen The Exorcist, you've kind of seen, every possession flick and how it's going to kind of go. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And the last part of this movie just kind of takes this weird, twisty, haunted house turn, body horror
Cool.
kind of vibe. And like the lasting images of that flick are just like burned into my brain. Not that they're scary. It's just,
Cool.
I kind of imagine it as like a Del Toro movie. He has creatures in it, but those creature designs stay with you. And the end of this flick kind of has that same kind of quality to it and it's, I think that like at the end of the movie, it makes you think and you're just like, oh, this is, it's about age and like how time changes you and the effects of diseases and how all this stuff can affect you and like what you're looking forward to. And, unfortunately, like our genetics stuff is passed on to us with, we never asked for it. And you kind of see, like if someone in your family's died of cancer, you're kind of like, well, that's a possibility. And this movie kind of makes you think about all those things about that. So I really loved it. I watched it on a computer in North Carolina with my sister.
Nice.
And it was on a really tiny computer screen. And I still I want to rewatch it like on my bigger TV just because it being on such a small format, I was like, oh, this will be fun to watch with her. It's supposed to be scary and we both love scary movies, but I still felt this strong attachment to it and got a lot out of this movie watching it on a tiny screen where a lot of stuff was going on around me. So it made the cut. Number 2, I got Sound of Metal. Steph and I already talked about this. Great flick. I was totally blown away by it. I didn't expect. I mean, I thought I would like it, but I didn't. I just felt like the way we talked about it, it had to be on the list, right? We did a review about it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just. I mean, it's a straightforward flick, man, but it's good. It's well done. Great acting. Yeah, I'm not going to say much more. Just watch that YouTube vid if you want to hear me go on and on about how much I loved it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Sound of Metal is really good. It turns up on my list as well. Not to spoil the unraveling of our lists. But hell yeah, Sound of Metal was good. Good pick.
And my number 1 flick, the one that is His House. It's a Netflix film. You can watch it right now. It is a horror movie. This movie poster does not do anything for. It doesn't make me want to watch this movie at all. It just. People are like, oh, I watched the trailer because I'll go to like the little section on Netflix that tells you like what's coming soon and they'll like show a little trailer or whatever. And I was like, His House. I don't know this. Because I think the lady in it, totally don't know her name, but she was in Lovecraft Country. And I was like, cool. I really like that series this year. I'll watch this trailer. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this looks terrifying. And then I did some research and people were like, yeah, it's got some really horror moments. And I will say during one part has turned up on several like best scenes and movies to come out. This movie always tops like number 1 or 2 or 3. I was super unsettled. I did not want to continue watching the film because they just set the tension up so well that I was like being an avid fan of horror. You can kind of like be like, oh, this will be over soon. Oh, the scare's coming. I'm prepared for this, but it just kept the tension the whole time. And dude, oh man, I was just like, I don't want to I hope this is the last scare because I don't know if I can make it past any of this. And I remember hitting the down button on my controller after that scene just to see how much of the movie was left. Because if this is like a middle of the road scare, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for the end of this movie. But it's just a really touching story of refugees and what they might have to do to get to a country, and they end up in the UK, what they might have to do and what they go through to get here to have a better life. And they get to the UK and they're living in this like rundown house and it's their home and they have all these rules, and all the horror stems from all the stuff they had to do just to make it to the country. So it's not like they're being haunted by stuff from their past. It's not like this house is haunted. It's like they brought the horror and the supernatural and they're with them to their new place. Like you're never going to forget that stuff. Because, you struggled through this. And as the movie progresses, all these scares make sense as this guy reflects on like what he had to do to get there,
Right.
and there is some folklore to it of like demons and spirits that are from their country that I don't really know that much about. So it was like kind of a learning experience to figure out. It's just a great flick. And if you're scared easily, don't watch it. Cause for me, who does not scare easy, I was, it had some good terrifying moments and I loved it. And it's those images have stuck with me. I want to rewatch it, but I don't, cause I don't know. Like, so.
I didn't know what to expect exactly from His House. I really enjoyed it. It's an amazing movie. It kind of caught me out of nowhere. I thought it was going to be more of like a docudrama about immigration or whatever, but I guess maybe there's something that led to me knowing it was kind of a horror film and stuff. And it's definitely a fresh kind of horror film in like a post Jordan Peele horror world, and I really enjoyed the way that their plight was believable. For one, like the people who they encountered, it wasn't over the top kind of like overt racism or classism or whatever, but everything felt very realistic in terms of like what an immigrant from Africa moving to the UK would have to go through. As far as I know, it was very believable. And then pushing further along, great scares, great beautiful cinematography, and it's a nice tight little package. I definitely also recommend His House. That's a good one. Nice list, Maddie.
Thanks.
Enjoyed it. Check out those movies. So for my list, I kind of because I realized how much I slept on everything. It seems like this 2020, what I found was the year of indie gems and hidden gems that were on either VOD or Shudder or any other streaming services and things like that. Had a lot of these nice, really high quality films. Obviously, because the theaters were closed. But so my number 5 pick on my list is going to be, so what I tried to do with my picks is kind of take a broad look at things and find movies that I actually just really enjoyed watching this year. And Birds of Prey would be like the 5th one on my list. This is my favorite DCEU film, I think. And on one hand, I felt like the execution was really good to the point, that it's really good enough based on the other movies in its universe. But also it just genuinely was really fun. I like, the emancipation of Harley Quinn. I like the females taking the lead. I was overjoyed not only to hear of the casting of Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, but, to see, how well it played out. I could have done with more of a costume kind of thing for her, but she's so perfect. And, I like that character, and Canary, even Rosie Perez showing up. I like Rosie Perez, man. I thought it was pretty good. It was a little formulaic, but it was a very enjoyable DCEU film, and I think probably the top of my list for those films for sure. Did you like that one, Maddie?
I did. I've watched it a couple of times now, and I think it is. I was trying to think of another I'd just say like this and Shazam are probably my 2 favorite DC movies where I just had a ton of fun watching them.
Yeah, same. Ewan McGregor was so good as Black Mask.
Oh yeah.
Even though that.
Well, when he was cast, I was like, I always like. There's this movie called Son of a Gun that Ewan McGregor plays a bad guy in, and he is so despicable, even though it's like subtly played. But like when so I was like stoked to see him play another villain and like be kind of over the top, like you can be with the Black Mask character. So yeah, I like this movie. I think it's good. I'd watch another one. I watched 3 of these.
Nice, yeah, definitely. I love. Hold on, give me 1 second, folks. I'm queuing up my next. Queue up. Boom, bam, biggity boom. So on my next list, I'm gonna go ahead and pick this little Pixar movie, Onward.
Ooh, I watched this recently.
Yeah, it doesn't. This one's reaching a little way back. I was living in LA at the time this came out, and I remember it made me feel real good. It's a nice mix of like fantasy. I mean, it's a ton of fantasy, but it's plopped down in a world that we recognize, the world that all these, what are you going to say, ogres? I don't know what they are exactly. These characters live in this fantasy world, but all magic has been, unbelieved away somehow. So
Yeah.
they're living in a world that looks more like ours, and they have to go find magic, and it's like a nice tale about brothers and the relationship of brothers and things. And I really enjoyed it. For all intents and purposes, this is not the thing I generally gravitate towards. I love Pixar and everything, but I'm just kind of like, I'm not really a big fantasy guy, honestly. So it was like those kind of elements turned me off. But the more I watched of it, I was like, I love it. It had, again, that like kind of lived in, relatable world I know, but then all this fantastical stuff involved. And I really enjoyed Onward quite a bit. Did you like Onward, Maddie? You said you saw it recently.
I did. I just watched it. I did a double feature. I was quarantined for 10 days, and my roommates on New Year's wanted to do something together.
Yeah.
So we put on the movie Soul. And so I watched Soul
Nice, I
with
gotta watch
them.
that.
And like we would like call each other and like talk about it and stuff because I was like stuck in my room. And after that, I was on the Disney Plus, and I remembered you saying like it was fun, it was good. And I was like riding that roller coaster of Pixar, which can be sad and happy. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in it. Let's do another one. And I said, Onward it is. I like fantasy. I like dragons and magic and shit. So
Onward it is.
yeah, so that's I like both those films. And I don't think I like animated stuff as much as I used to, but I did enjoy these two. I'm glad I watched them, and I don't know when I'll watch another one, but
yeah, I really liked it. It caught me by surprise because I think I wrote it off the first time that I heard about it or whatever, but I'm glad I took the time to watch it and stuff. So if you haven't seen Onward, check it out. If you like that D&D kind of stuff too, there's a lot of that, wizards and dragons and such. And for my next pick, my number 4 pick this year, my number 3, 4? Yeah, my number 3 pick is gonna have to be the dang old New Mutants. I just gotta tell you,
this is a runner-up for me.
This movie tickled me pink. Not only do I love mutants, of course I love movies. Not only do I love mutants, but I really enjoyed the take that Josh Boone had with these characters and with, the potential franchise that it could have been with these characters. I felt like all the actors did really well. Anya Joy-Taylor is a standout. She's just a fantastic actress, but everybody else in it was also very good, and it had like a nice kind of, I'll say, millennial generation Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibe to it, which I think they reference in.
They watch it.
Yeah, they're watching it. But yeah, it really got that for me and made me feel like, I like this ragtag bunch of kids, and it's like a haunted house movie in a lot of ways in this hospital, and that the antagonist, one of the antagonists, their handler or their caretaker or whatever, she's nice. You don't really know if you can trust her up until a certain point, and then you kind of love to hate her at a certain point. And seeing these characters kind of blossom just for this small moment was just really nice for me. If you haven't seen New Mutants and you're a fan of X-Men and stuff, and you can kind of like take a fresh perspective on things like that, this movie is really enjoyable. What'd you think?
I just want to say, I love the New Mutants. I bought it. I watched I watched the commentary where Josh Boone talks with Bill Sienkiewicz.
Bill Sienkiewicz,
the artist who
I call him Billy Sink.
Well, Billy Sink, and they talk about the movie. I mean, they don't really talk about the movie so much because I don't think they could watch it and do the commentary. They're just kind of talking about his career, but it's great. I loved it. I honestly was surprised when people were like, I would be like, oh yeah, the New Mutants is good. Then people would rent it and say they hated it. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think it's good. I mean, yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best comic book movie I've ever seen, but it's a lot of fun. I think the final fight scene with Demon Bear is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that they just kind of like get into the characters and like go with it. My only biggest complaint is I wish for Maisie Williams' character, they would have went more werewolf with it a little more with
Instead
the makeup
of actual
effects.
wolf.
Well, they did that, but then she like grows claws and has the hair and the ears
Right.
and stuff because she can
Yeah.
go into like a wolf form or like
Kind
a
of a
werewolf-like
human werewolf,
form.
yeah.
But I wish they
agree.
would have just played with the like more fur on her face kind of stuff. But that's me, and I'm pretty particular about the way my werewolves look in movies.
Yeah. That's
But I
true.
thought that final fight scene, I was like, dude, like I liked it. I was like, oh, it's a little like young adulty, but whatever. This is who this movie's for. It's not like I'm 36,
Yeah.
man. Like this movie's not made for me now. It's like, So I get that. And after I got to that point, I was like, all right, so show me what else you have. And I thought the fight scene, I thought the demon bear looked sick. I don't know, man. I love this movie. I just put it on just when I'm drawing and stuff because it's a good one. You can just look up and, like you said, performances are good.
It's, it has, when I was a young little guy, it has those moments that I would have related to as a young little guy when the character finally kind of realizes how badass they are, and they have, Monster Squad when he's the bad kid is walking away to go confront the vampire girls who are coming, and they're like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm in the goddamn club, aren't I? You know what I mean? There was a couple moments in this one, especially with Magic, with Anya Joy's character, where I live for moments like that where the character stops and then turns, their back is to you, and then they turn and look and have like a great line.
Dude, so good.
Yeah, when they they're just Sunspot discovering his powers, and Cannonball kind of figuring his shit out to a certain degree. It's just a shame we won't see a continuation, really, honestly.
I like the ending fight scene because I thought it was really well choreographed for mutants who don't know how to use their powers.
Yeah.
Except maybe Anna Taylor-Joy's character.
Right.
Just because she's the only one who seems to control it. But I felt like every time someone was saved, like if Cannonball grabs him and uses his power to get away, it made sense. It wasn't like, oh, we have to have Cannonball do something in this scene, So I don't know. I thought the whole fight scene, yes, would I have loved to see more Sunspot or more action? Yes, there are better final fight scenes in several other Marvel movies, but I thought everything was like, if you had just figured out your power, or been trying to control it with no one really teaching you, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
It's not like they got Professor X showing them how to do all this shit.
Yeah, and they had that little reference towards like the X-Men universe. It's, this is one of the last little blips of the Fox era, which is, at least we got this. I'm very grateful that we got this, at least this one film.
I'm glad this just didn't get swept under the rug. One of my favorite moments in this movie, though, is it's a little they all think that they're at this place to become X-Men, which I thought was great. They're like, what are we going to be in the X-Men or something? And it was like, this is kind of cool. Like they're opening up this universe, and the X-Men exist in that universe, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. And not to spoil it, but it seemed like the Fox people were gearing up to introduce Mr. Sinister at the end of the last Wolverine and with New Mutants and stuff like that. So I think Sinister would be a great villain to explore. We'll have plenty of X-Men talk on this show. For certain, but I'm sick of the Dark Phoenix. I'm sick of Magneto. I realize these are important characters to the mythos and everything, but we need to get to a point where we're pushing past and we're exploring the entire rest of the mutant verse, because there's so much there. And the X-Men will always have their place. And so
I need Mojo. I need Longshot. Come on.
Yeah.
If we're going to space, let's do something fun.
More funky shit. More movies that are kind of like what Deadpool was doing, unabashed. Harvesting of mutants. Like I wasn't pleased with Shatterstar and Deadpool 2 quite as much as I hoped I'd be. But hey, at least we got the mention of Shatterstar. I never thought I would see that in a movie, let alone Deadpool, let alone Guardians of the Galaxy, let alone X, Y, and Z. So that's my number 3 pick. What was that?
I said I want an X-Force movie. A legit one.
Let's do it up.
The R-rated Wolverine I want with Deadpool. Just R-rated X-Men.
That would be great. So my number oops, I already did that one. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Schmifficulties. Did I really do? Okay, here we go. 1 second, folks. I'm learning how to computer, and I'm almost done. Here we go. I think this one. Yes. Okay, so I picked this one as my number 2 because I'm a lifelong Bill and Ted fan. I love these dudes. The first film being obviously like a remarkable hit that kind of came out of nowhere. People maybe at the time didn't know it was going to be quite as, seeing these two dudes bumble their way through their adventures and stuff was classic. And the second one, it took on a whole different flavor and kind of grew up in a weird way. It got darker, it got weirder. And I feel like 2022, we're not there yet. Don't get ahead of yourself. I feel like 2020 really needed this movie. This was kind of
Agreed.
this was another red pill. Maybe this was the blue pill. I don't know. I don't take a lot of pills, but this movie, it was that nice, refreshing, hopeful kind of upbeat thing that I think a lot of people needed at the time. We were pressing into the election and all the stuff, the uncertainty and all the strife in society and stuff. So I felt like Bill and Ted Face the Music really united us for a moment there. And also it was one of the first, films to be released, one of these big films to be released on video on demand first. And, it's kind of set the stage for what movies will be like here on out until the pandemic's, come and gone. But we're going to have these like VOD releases, these big releases and these event films and, using the club like this and chatting and social media to really make that event something of its own for the live stream age, for the digital age. So anyway, in a lot of ways I thought this movie could be better. But I was happy with what there was. Some things I felt like were a little lazy, and a lot of genuine chuckles though throughout. I thought the characters were fun. For the money they were able to get to make it, I think they used it well. And I'll always show up for a Bill and Ted. I know that now for certain. The trilogy is satisfying. What did you think of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
I loved it. I watched it with some people. I think this was like the first, we got together, we wore masks, but it was only a few of us in a room and kind of it wasn't my roommates. It was just some other friends I hadn't seen in a while. And they're like, hey, you want to come over and watch this? I was like, I'm not a big fan of Bill and Ted. I'm not saying they're not good movies. They're just not for me.
Okay. Keep going.
But I love this movie. I had a shit ton of fun watching it.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I needed at the time. And this movie graces my top 10 flicks. Mm-hmm. It's probably number 10 because I'm not a huge fan, but just on pure enjoyment and just having fun being around people I hadn't seen in a while because of quarantining and 6 feet apart and trying to, keep everyone safe. This was a much needed kind of break in my 2020, and it was to this movie, and I will always remember that.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill and Ted, for facing the music for us. Also, Billy and Taya were really great. I loved their kids. They had some really good moments. I was a little leery about how that was going to play out, but they were awesome.
Samara Weaving.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where those actresses' careers are going from there. You probably actually know more about them than I do.
Well,
currently.
the girl that is Keanu's daughter, she is in a show called Atypical on Netflix. Okay. It's really good. She's really good in it. Okay. I recommend that show. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And then Samara Weaving is Alex Winter's daughter, and she is in Ready or Not, which was a really good horror movie that came out in 2019. Yes. She's also in a show, I think it's called Killer Queen on Netflix, that's by Mick G, the director. The first one's really good, and then there's a second one that is not so good, but the first one's cool. She's a good actress. She's in this movie called Mayhem 2 that's on Shudder with Stephen Yeun, and it's really good. It's just about, I don't know, this, I think it's like an airborne thing happens in this office, and they all go crazy, their rage meter goes up, and it's kind of like Office Space on acid or something. So,
all right.
But yeah, she's a great actress. I want to see her in more stuff.
Nice. Glad I asked. Thanks for the info there. I'm sure the group members and those of you watching also learned a little bit there. Thank you, Maddie. That was awesome. So for my number one pick, I'm just going to have to go ahead and I think this was kind of both our number one pick, probably the best overall film, all-around film seen this year. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. And my fingers are fat for my trackpad. And so I will just, I had some links prepared for this, but, we're just rolling with it. Sometimes they're not as big as you want. So The Sound of Metal as well, I want to say, is probably the best overall film that I saw, best dramatic film. I'm a huge Riz Ahmed fan. Next I want to see of his is Mowgli, where he plays like a rapper, like a Pakistani rapper. I think will be very cool. There's a rapper in all of us, I think, nowadays. So I think Riz has the chops to. He would be a great Nightcrawler. Just putting that out there right now.
Oh yeah,
he's got this really malleable way of being, and he's just such a powerhouse of an actor. I really love pretty
He
much
actually has
everything he
some
does.
music too. I think he does
Yeah.
have some rap albums and rap album.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he's amazing. I love Riz Ahmed, and Sound of Metal was really good. It's just, he's kind of, in a lot of ways, he's as brave as like somebody like Shia LaBeouf or something, kind of letting it all hang out there.
Oof.
But he really does have like this studied skill of acting that he really, he's like the Shia LaBeouf. I don't know. I'm comparing him to that really exactly.
Yeah, I don't know
The
if that's a
Shia
good
LaBeouf-
thing. He's canceled now,
I
dude.
know he's canceled now, but he's a brave talent. That's just who comes to mind. But he's also got kind of like, it seems like a similar mind to what's Kylo Ren's name? Adam Driver.
Driver.
I feel like Riz is interested in going like with his characters anyway, like controversial stories, really intense stories, and these really tortured or pained characters that he's able to portray, and he's amazing. Sound of Metal was amazing. I think we talked about that one our first episode. We talked about
yeah, it
Sound
was.
of
That
Metal,
was the first movie we watched.
yeah, for the movie club as it is now, the podcast,
Yeah.
we talked about all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so that's my list of movies, best picks for 2020. I'm sorry if the audio went distorted there. I think I should get my little pop guard back again now that I got this new setup. That might make things a little butterier. But those are our picks for the best movies of 2020. And there's some good stuff in there, a good handful of things, amidst all the films that I saw listed on like Rotten Tomatoes lists or Variety or whatever. There's a ton I didn't see. A lot of good movies I didn't see for sure. But I think out of the ones we picked, you can shake a stick at them. They're worth your time, I would say, from both of us. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I got for this episode. We'll go ahead and do our shout outs and lead outs. If you wanted to check out our boys at the Superhero Stuff You Should Know podcast, catch them on Instagram here at Superhero Stuff Pod. I think that's also their Twitter handle. And on YouTube, you can search Superhero Stuff You Should Know. That's our boys, Andrew and Ben, we've collaborated many times. Both Maddie and I came from formerly the Superhouse podcast that turned into Superhero Stuff Pod. So if you're interested in what they're up to, they got a lot of fun stuff like skits and videos and super deep divey episodes on all things superhero. So check them out. Go give some love to my feature film directorial debut page at facebook.com/Colfax15th. This is a film I worked on with friends like 10 years ago. It's been sitting on the shelf. It was online at a time, for a time, but I took it off because I wanted to add more music to it and get it to a more powerful, I don't know what you'd say. I just put those last finishing touches on it that I noticed it needed, so I can do like a definitive release. So go check out that should be out. I'm trying to get that done before the end of the month, so I'm thinking somewhere around I don't know, I don't want to say anything officially, but go check that out. I got some updates coming, and the movie's really good, so I can't wait to show everybody how it's all turned out with the added music and things like that. If you want to follow us on Instagram, I'm at Wolfie Cruz, as well as at Wolfie Cruz Art, which has some of my comic art and illustrations and stuff that I've been doing and put them up there. Maddie is Old Beardo. We both, we take nice little photos. We have our artsy, fartsy pics on there, as well as, other random personal pics and shout outs and stuff. So come follow us there. You can also follow us at Overly Critical Movie Club on Instagram. I forgot to put that there, but that's our kind of main page. And I generally just post the promos and the episode graphics and stuff there. And sometimes I get out from my laziness and do some fun little factoid images and stuff. So, shenanigans, as it were. If you'd like to support our efforts here, if you're enjoying the show, head on over to patreon.com/Overly Critical Movie Club and donate to our efforts. It'll help. It's not dire in any situation just yet, but people always say it helps us keep the lights on and things like that. So, I got to charge my lights somehow. But
true.
also, if you just want to support us, just like each post. Go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube page. All those links are in the Facebook description, on our Instagram. Just like, share, subscribe, comment. If you want to support us, those go a long way. If you don't really want to, crack your wallet open or whatever, I understand. No worries, but likes go a long way. So we appreciate you. I want to go ahead and thank Matt Herring for buying one of our t-shirts. At our merch links are also up there. We have t-shirts up at tpublic.com. I got a couple more that I'm going to post there this rest of this week. So there should be a gold version of the logo, as well as kind of like an antiquated black and white version of the logo tee, which I really like. They're nice quality t-shirts, as well as the Travis Bickle caricature version t-shirt that Matt Herring bought. Thank you, Matt Herring. And if you got a picture of that, send it our way. I'd love to show everybody how it looks. More t-shirts to come. I hope you enjoyed the graphic that we put for this new one. Those illustrations were fun to do. We're cartoons. Some point we'll get some animation going or some such thing. But for now, enjoy looking at our animated mugs on the promos. And
I like
I'm
them.
rambling on again. Woo! But anyway, so thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Those who did, catch us on YouTube. Catch us in the group. We'll be chatting with you all. Thanks for the comments. Anything to say before we head out, Maddie?
Thanks for watching.
This is Wolfie signing off.
This is Maddie. Bye-bye.